A very good evening and warm welcome to the NDLA Club's 12th global event. I'm Dr. Vignesh and I'm part of the National Digital Library of India team. On behalf of the National Digital Library, we would like to thank each of the 2,700 institutions who have set up NDLA clubs in their institution in the last 9 months. Today, collectively, we have over 5 lakh NDLA club members, who are primarily the young generation, who are school students or college students. As I said, this is the 12th in the series of global events that the NDLA has been organizing. And today, we have gathered to listen to our expert speaker, Mr. Kishore Balaji, who is the Director, Policy and Technical Affairs for India and South Asia, Intel Corporation. And I got acquainted with Mr. Kishore way back in 2014 and 15 when we worked on the National Digital Literacy Mission, and he was the main driving force from the industry to promote one person in every family to be literate. So that was his one of the key achievements, I would say, to his career. And he's a very seasoned professional, fitness freak, and a passionate golfer. And he is going to talk to us on a very important topic of future of career in technology. And for introducing this session, now I would like to invite Professor Partha Pradeep Das, who is the Joint Principal Investigator of National Digital Library of India and also the Professor of Computer Science at IIT Kharagpur. And he is the person who inspired me to join the National Digital Library. And without me taking much time, now I'd like to request Professor Partha Pradeep Das to take it forward. Over to Professor Das.
Thank you, Dr. Vignesh. Welcome, everyone. We are in the NDLI Club 12th Global Event Session. As you all are aware, that NDLI is a huge national platform that connects
Uh, Thus, sir, your audio is breaking.
Intel, as Vignesh ji has already mentioned you, and he's a tenured leader in Intel South Asia and is currently serving as Director, Policy and Technical Affairs for India and South Asia Intel Corporation. He's been with at Intel since 7-year career. He has created and led high performance teams across multiple functions and businesses as well. Uh, Kishore believes that technology is the smartest and the most cost effective way of solving several issues that the world is facing today. And he is frequently invited as a speaker at various international and national events on issues related to governance, corporate affairs, public policy, trade, education, CSR, innovation and entrepreneurship, and technology for development. Kishore has been credited with having architected an industry wide digital literacy platform program that today is adopted by the government as National Literacy Mission, that I'm sure many of you would be aware of, and that has trained over 10 million, that is over a crore people. This initiative helped maintain a healthy PC absorption rate for the industry. Being a keen advocate for a need to build an innovation continuum, in industry across schools, colleges, and incubation centers. As you all know, we are having a major Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative all across in solution helped execute the very well known and high performing Auto Tinkering Lab program in India. He has also architected several entrepreneurship development initiatives across APAC. Being the custodian of Intel's reputation among government elites, he manages several key relationships in government, ministries, industry association, academia, and civil society agencies. Kishore has also served in several industry policy and advisory groups. He has also managed Intel's reputation with government elites and key influencers. While leading Intel's CSR mandated obligations and deliverables for Intel and its group of companies in India, Kishore has enabled several large scale initiatives to ensure ease of doing businesses for Intel by ensuring a level playing field for Intel in government procurement and a seamless license to operate in India. A postgraduate in management, prior to joining Intel, he has held several P&L, marketing, sales, and channel roles. So it is really a privilege for all of us to be able to listen to Kishorji on various prospects of technology in the future, and how primarily the students, the young people can get engaged in that, be a part of it, and take that forward. With these words, I would request Mr. Kishore Balaji to take over and deliver his address for the event today. Mr. Balaji, please.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your kind words, Professor Das, and it's always a pleasure, to talk to young people. And today, technology allows for such instances of interaction, and that's extremely pleasing. And thanks, Dr. Vignesh, for having me over. And I happen to be on a small vacation, therefore, a lot of what I would speak today is more from the perspective of, a father, or perhaps someone that is interested in issues of youth, jobs, etc., than a policy expert or a policy resource for Intel in India. So that's the hat I would like to wear to walk you through some of my thoughts on how I see the whole uh, tech industry moving, how I see the whole jobscape moving. I like to call it jobscape because it happens in a certain continuum. I would also touch upon how I think the careers are changing, workplaces are changing, so on and so forth. I'll probably talk for about 20-25 minutes, and I'll be happy to kind of take questions. I may not be an expert on several issues that you may have, but I'm happy to definitely, you know, share as much as possible, and engage in a conversation. Who knows? Perhaps I can help you clarify some of your thoughts, paradigms, opinions, and views. With that, I'll slip right in. Right. So, like I said, I'm going to be talking from a vantage of a parent. Right. I'm wearing a parent hat. I'm very nervous. I have kids who are probably as old as you all. I have a son who's pursuing his late year in his engineering. I have a daughter who's stepping out of her school into the higher education ecosystem. So I get very nervous when they come and ask me about what should I do. Hey, and I know there's a very pointed question which says, "Hey, Dad, what should I do next? What do you think are some of your ideas of how should I go around shaping or building my career?" Right. So I'm going to talk from that position. So I'm not going to talk from a position of somebody who engages with policymakers and so on and so forth. Now, this question puts a lot of responsibility on me to answer with as much clarity, as much depth, and as much nuance as possible. Because end of the day, what I tell them will reshape the careers of two of my little ones at home, and I'm gonna probably share the same lessons or worldview that I share with my kids to you all, and I'm hoping that may be useful to you, right? So we live in an era where we are seeing an advent of technology all over, right? I mean, we are seeing everything that we saw in science fiction movies, we read in novels, we read in comic books 5, 7, 10, 20 years back is happening today, right? I mean, we see people flying, we see people walking with an artificial heart in the back, we see people who are able to really you know fly in cars, drones, call it whatever. We are moving into an era where everything that was outside of the realm of possibility today is becoming mainstay. The reason why I bring this up is I think you must pause for a moment and understand this huge change that we are part of today, right? So it's not like just another year and just another career and just another course. We are part of a mega tectonic shift that is happening as we speak. Now, you may know that there have been several industrial revolutions in past, right? There was one where coal got discovered in the late 18th century, that helped industrialization a certain way, that helped unabated growth. Then came the whole industrial revolution around electrification, modernization of assembly line techniques, which really saw a lot of our manufacturing, take place in the early 20th century. And as we move forward in the late 20th century, we saw the whole compute and communication industry revolution, where all of us started using technology to improve our lives, communicate, emails, messages, word, excel, a lot of it, right? And you may remember how it may have been transformational for some of your parents, who may have done well in leading with this change and therefore redefined their careers, or who may not have done well to adopt to this change and may have found it difficult to cope in some sense. So you may either have a positive memory or a negative memory associated with that. Now, all these are grand plans and grand shifts that happen over a period of time. And what we are facing today, like I said 5 minutes back, machines learning, robots running, cars flying, all of it is part of a very, very grand plan of what we call the fourth industrial revolution, right? So far it was mono angular. In terms of vector, you had compute that can do something, but here we are talking about coming together of biology, physics, and digital capabilities, and bringing about what we call as the fourth industrial revolution. It's very important for us to recognize this tectonic shift, because the jobs, the potential, the growth, etc., that we see today is going to be 10x, 15x of what it was yesterday, right? I mean, how jobs reshaped as we moved from the electrical, industrial revolution to the computer industrial revolution is probably gonna go 100x from here on, and therefore it's important for you all to pause and really understand the nuance that things are at the beginning of a big explosion of opportunities and capabilities that are going to take shape in the market out there. And it's therefore important for you to recognize, understand, and prepare to embrace this future so that you make the best out of it. Now, what's going to happen in this new industrial revolution as I see? As I say, there are going to be significant coming together of various technologies, right? Merged reality, wearable technology, distributed ledgers, blockchain, smart machines, 3D printing, AI and cognitive system. All of this are going to come up with connectivity as a backbone and really transform the way businesses use technology, or people interact or use technology. This is what we call as a vertex effect. It is also important because unlike in past where efficiencies in technology happened by inventions of certain technology, here we are talking about tandem movement of several technologies which are going to be playing with each other. I am told the potential, I mean, you all may agree that internet had a very, very profound impact on people and economies, right? I'm told AI alone as a space has a potential to have an impact which is 10 to 12x on humanity of what internet has had. So you can imagine the sheer size and volume of change just one of these one of these vectors is going to drive. Now if these were to interplay with multiple technologies in this vertex effect that I call, you can imagine the size and shape of things to come. Now that's the good news. Now as that happens, for the future of work, there are going to be a lot of disruptions in a way that one would need to prepare for. And these disruptions are more around technology everywhere. You're going to have huge number of smartphone. You're going to have huge amount of data that flows, opportunities of managing data, inferring data, getting something done out of data. All of it is going to happen. There are going to be workforces which are going to be extremely diverse. There are going to be several careers that people are going to have in one career, right? I mean, when my granddad went to work, he perhaps worked one career in his whole career, right? So he started and finished perhaps in one job. My dad perhaps did two or three. But in future, there are going to be several careers that people will have. A developer would become a business lead, who may become an inventor, who may become a space traveler, who knows, right? We are seeing all this happen, right? So that's going to happen. There's going to be a huge explosion in the way gig economy works, right? So that's going to challenge the paradigm of current office structures. I'm going to study, go to a workplace, work, and come back. And there are issues around job satisfaction, there are issues around job security, so on and so forth. Those paradigms are going to get really challenged. And to top it up, with this rise of machine, as I call, several jobs will become vulnerable to automation, whereas several new opportunities will get created. And again, like I said, AI and cognitive computing is going to be leading a lot of opportunity. Now, these seven are huge disruptors that are going to be happening, not somewhere out there. This is not going to happen 7, 10 years, 20 years down the line. This is already beginning to happen. In some sense, we are already part of the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. And one needs to seriously evaluate how we are participating in it to be gaining from it. That being said, what really astounds me is these are seven known disruptors. But even today, as we speak, we don't know what we don't know, right? So that would mean there may be several such changes that may catch us off guard, in a way to bring disruptions to career, in a way to bring opportunities to career, depending on how you deal with the disruption. Now, so I've spoken about how I see the new industrial revolution come up. I've spoken about how I see disruptions all around us. The workforce is going to change. You all will soon be part of a workforce which is going to be extremely diverse, right? For the first time ever, starting last year, the workforce out there is going to have 4 to 5 generations participate in an organization, unlike in past. And that's a huge challenge for culture. That's a huge challenge for innovation. That's a huge challenge for usage and adoption of technology, and so on and so forth. And I think that is something that you must pay attention to, and you must prepare. And all this is happening at a breakneck speed, and in the backdrop of the COVID era, right? And that's going to really transcend and alter the way workforces are organized, skilled, and evaluated, and rewarded. And you have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that technology is changing and workforce composition is changing. Now, uh, while all this is happening, industries are, when I say industry, I'm talking now about the user industry. I'm not just talking about the tech industry, which I think is a dispenser of solution. I'm talking about, let's say, the auto manufacturer, the pharma companies, etc. They are taking note of these changes, and they think that technology, if you met a CXO 20 years back, you had to tell him, please use technology, and this is how technology can help you. But today, we are having to talk about, the transformation with technology in the middle of it. So technology is not a support enabler anymore, but technology is in the middle of organizational transformation in several cases. 70% of CXOs way back in 2020 spoke about using digital transformation in the middle of their organizational transformation. 40% of the businesses in the top 20 of the industry pyramid spoke about using technology for disruption, and 50% of the workforce today that's participating in jobs are millennials and extremely disruptive from a technology standpoint. Now, this only gets accentuated by rapid digitalization that we see in India, with or without COVID. Right, COVID's only pushed that envelope further in terms of technology adoption. So the point here is, not only is technology changing, the user industries are waking up to the fact and lapping up the change in technology and digitization, which is all the more reason for people like you all to be aware and get prepared for jobs of the future. Another thing that is getting in parallel moving that you should be cognizant of is beyond school learning, right? I mean, conventional education model of people spending a certain percentile of their time to gain skills is now gotten elongated, right? I mean, some models prescribe about 23-24% of learnings that actually happen in formal learning spaces, and then it kind of gets petered out to online learning and on-job learning, etc. But I think we are beginning to see that learning becomes a lifelong process because technology, competency, skills, etc. change so very rapidly, and beyond formal learning, atmospheres learning is growing extremely faster with this whole advent of study from anywhere, right? So just the COVID era saw a growth of close to 700% week on week on people taking up new skills by getting onto newer platforms like Coursera, edX, and call it whatever, right? So the learning spaces are getting altered. Now, I've spoken about massive disruption. I've spoken about a vortex of several technology come about. I've spoken about interpersonal skill adaptation, interpersonal challenges in workspace that may come. I've spoken about a change in learning paradigm, and I've also spoken about how organizations are not looking at why technology anymore. They're looking at how technology, right? Technology is now critical to their transformation. Now, when all this happens, we cannot wait for all this to happen and then say, hey, youth of today have to get prepared to this career, right? We can't buy an insurance, like Schiller says, when the house is finished burning. We need to prepare for it. Now, this is a very daunting task because I've spoken about a variety of moving parts, and really, really challenging for government, academia, and people like you all to get to sit up, take notice, and prepare yourself for the future. Now, given all these uncertainties, right? I mean, technology will change, the way organizations are organized will change, etc. Right? You can't prepare for all of those, but what can you prepare for? Now, as per a study that was published, I think, in 2016, there are some building block skills that you can prepare for, right? You can't prepare all of it, you can prepare for some of it. Now, we are going to be living in a highly superstructured organization world, right? We are going to be living in a world where human machine interface is going to be very, very high. Compute is going to be very high. We're going to be living in an era where media is created and absorbed differently at different points in time. We're also going to be living in an era where the longevity of people is going to increase, careers are going to increase, and that multitude of generation in a career is happening, right? And we're going to be living in a very, very super connected world, right? Now, in that to thrive, some of the skills that you will need to really associate yourself and work on are around adaptive learning, computational thinking, new media literacy, virtual collaboration, right? Digital mindset, cross-cultural competency. I mean, this is something that all industry players like us and beyond value, right? Transdisciplinary abilities, right? A doctor who can understand a bit of how to use technology, and so on and so forth. Cognitive load managing, sense making, ability to work in gray, thrive in gray, being self-directed and making sense of what is not said and performing, social intelligence. I think these are some building block skills that all of us should, understand, appreciate, learn, and develop. Right? Now, if we do all this, right, I think we are readying ourselves to be, to be taking on the jobs of the future. Mind you, all these are building block skills. You will still need topical skills on technology, which come and change from time to time, right? Jobs of the future are predicted to be something very different from jobs of today, right? Jobs of the future sound like organ creators, augmented reality journey builders, right? Rewilders, given this whole sustainability, thrust that we are seeing, governments and ecosystems get into. Digital currency advisors. In fact, when I made this first time when I spoke of this, I had a tough time understanding what a digital currency advisor would be, but I'm sure you all know much more than I do today how digital currencies are created, distributed, managed, and used. Biofilm installers, right? Drone traffic controller, human machine teaming managers, right? Energy auditors, fuel cell engineers, supply chain workers, right? Elder care service providers. These are the kind of job titles that will emerge in future that you should look forward to preparing yourself to and gain out of it. Lastly, while all this I said sounds somewhere in future, for you to relate to what it could look like in the near term, I think we're speaking about a 4 5 year horizon, 4 5 year horizon here. I think some you may have already heard a lot of it, but I think the jobs that are going to be there in the immediate terms are around machine learning, data sciences, information security analysis, analysts rather, process automators, digital marketing, digital transformation specialists, fintech providers, architects, and so on and so forth. Right. So I've kind of tried to so far just give you a sense of what's happening out there for you to step back, gaze, and appreciate the enormity of change that is happening. I've given you a sense of what future of work is going to look like. I've also given you a sense of what jobs out there are going to be looking like, what titles are going to be looking like in a medium to long term. But so that this session remains more real to you in short term, right? So it's like saying, hey, Kishore, you're saying all this, but how do I make sense of it? What does it mean to my opportunities in the near term? I think it's all there in this slide, and you may be well adept with some of it or all of it, at least from a what is it perspective, right? So I think that's what I had to share today, and I'm definitely cheering for my kids to get into uh, you know I'll just skip this. I think this is not good. I'm just cheering for my kids to get into a world of dichotomy. Like Charles Dickens says, when he opens Tale of Two Cities, some of you would have read, he speaks about we live in some of the best of the times, which were the worst of the times, best of the cities, which are worst of the cities when he talks of two different cities in Europe. I think that's the dichotomy we will grapple with. We will have large scale challenges to deal with. Poverty is not gone, climate issues, We will have new areas that will help people sustainably resolve for some of these issues. We will have young youth like you. India is entering its period of demographic, golden period of demographic dividend. Over the next 30 years, India would have the most enterprising, skilled, and young workforce, which no other country would have. And I would think that will create, a nice concoction of positivity of youth being able to use technology to solve some of these large challenges. So I'll continue to route for my kids as much as I would route for you all. Yes, we are entering some times of high disruption, but out of disorder, opportunities get created, and I welcome you all to the world of work where you can best leverage from it. I'll stop presenting, but I'm happy to take questions here from here on. Dr. Vignesh, back to you.
Thank you so much. Just give me. Thank you so much, Kishore, for this very short and crisp presentation. So I think now we request the participants to kindly put your questions in the comments box so that we can put it to our resource person for response. So in the meanwhile, as the participants put their questions, I have a quick question, Kishore. So the
Sure.
question is, you have mentioned a lot of technology, and I think there are a lot of predictions that technology is going to take up a lot of the jobs. What is your take? Is it going to really disrupt the entire current job industry, or is it going to change in a different way?
There are two questions in your question, right? Is there going to be disruption? Is it going to take away jobs, right? And in my view, I think we mankind has seen several such tsunamic changes in terms of technology, right? I mean, we've seen manufacturing process change, which replaced a lot of factory workers, as we know in Detroit and US in the early 20th century, right? Similarly, we've seen the compute era come, which took up some mundane clerical jobs in the late 90s, right? And India stood to gain out of it. Now, in disruption, there are opportunities. Disruptions challenge the way the world operates on that day, but it definitely does create more jobs. So India would have, the Indian banking ecosystem, for example, would have lost a lot of certain nature of work, clerical work, which machines may have replaced, but Indian IT ecosystem would have gained out of several people participating in that digital transformation of financial institutions, which is far more fulfilling for communities, governments, and GDPs, right? So, short answer to your question, I think nature of jobs will change. Jobs won't be lost. The quality of job will change. And is there a disruption? Yes, we are in the middle of a disruption. This disruption will only go 100x.
Okay. So there is a question from Miss Jasvi Chaudhary. Her question is, what about medical field? Will surgeons be in demand?
While I was researching to speak to you all on jobs, I took a technology cut to kind of share those 10 big jobs, right? But if I take a step back, right? I mean, as I was researching for it, I think the medical space will have a very very foretelling impact of this large change that is going to happen. We are going to see the integration of technology in medical space like never before, and we're already beginning to see some of those things happen, right? So we are going to see a confluence of biology and technology, which is smart technology, which is going to come. I would definitely see healthcare workers which operate at scale, elder caregivers, because at least a vast amount of countries are going to be on the wrong end from a geriatric perspective, and surgeons definitely are going to be in demand. So I would see medical fraternity really, really reshaping the way they operate, but stand out as a large industry vertical which will grow.
Sure. So the next question is from one of the participants. Suppose if I'm doing my mechanical engineering, right? And if technology is going to take off all the jobs, so what am I going to do after completing my mechanical engineering from a college?
I, yeah, I think I kind of covered it in my session. He may have typed it before. I kind of covered it before, right? So, Vignesh, that was your question too. I think we have to come out of this paradigm saying, if I have done my mechanical engineering, I have a career for life, right? I think we have to get into a paradigm, that learning slide that I showed, that technology will change, business processes will change, the way industry is organizing itself to use technology will change. Industry which don't use technology at all will also change. So this paradigm of I will do a couple of courses and I'm set for a lifelong career has to change. You will have to necessarily keep going back and kindling your learning abilities, and stay astute, gain new skills, participate in newer business models, and keep rediscovering yourself. You will be forced to do it at least 5 times in your career, if not more.
So the next question is from Ms. Rachana. Her question is, still there exists a huge gap between academics and industry. What is your view?
Always, always. So if you met me 20 years back, I would say there was a gap between industry and academics. If you met me tomorrow, there will still be. If you met me 50 years down the line, there will still be. You have to understand one thing, right? If you divide the nature of jobs, or how do I put it? Nature of jobs, let's keep it that way. There are two types, right? One, where lot of skilled people are required to fulfill a well understood, less ambiguous, skill or role, right? That's what majority of us are engaged in. That's what the education system of today caters for. But as this rapid industrial change happens, more than 40-50% of companies out there are getting formed by the day, right? And it's difficult for academics to predict that, understand that, and create resources for that, right? It's never possible. An industry will always be ahead, because they are at advantage, because they are seeing innovation happen, they are making innovation happen, right? So academics will never be able to create that. When the innovation happens and there are tail end benefits to be shared by large workforce, that's when academics gets ready to churn out that workforce, right? Well, let me give you an example. If you met me, if I met you 15 years back, and I spoke of a world which will live on a satellite shared resource model like Ola or an Uber, you know, you wouldn't believe yourself, right? What was required then were data scientists, no, sorry, what was required then was for industry to innovate and bring out those models in which academia did not have a role. But the minute they bring it out and they say, okay, now we need to scale, we need data scientists, these are the kind of skills, these are the kind of technology skills and experience that we're looking for, that becomes a scalable proposition for academia to take and run with, right? I think that's where the how do I say, the coordination is, and the lag and chase is, and I think that lag and chase will always exist.
Sure. So the next question is from Mr. or Ms. Tahat Bera. How much this technological disruption can be controlled to avoid firing or retrenchment from the organization?
You cannot control it. No one can control it. I'd like to have a question. I mean, I'd like to ask a question to this person who had posed this question. First of all, I'm not crystal ball gazing. I may be wrong too, right? So most often than not. But I'm talking out of genuine compassion for people you all, who are at the crossroads of life. The question to the person who asked this question: do you use a smartphone? The answer probably is yes. Now, there was an era where people desisted from using smartphone. People desisted from saying, "I don't want to learn how to, navigate through that technology. I'm better off, right? I don't want to get disturbed. I'm better off. But as the industry moves, right, you are necessitated to participate in it. I remember my mother, my father. He left a banking job when the business productivity revolution happened, because he said, I don't want to use PC. I'd rather leave. But come a point where technology became accessible and his grandson went to the US, he was the first guy to Skype. He learned it himself. So I think two things: technology movement cannot be stopped, cannot be controlled. It will keep happening. Few will adopt early, who will gain from it. Few will join in and will gain from it. Few will resist it, will be late adopters, who will still have been associated to participate. But for all this to happen, three things technology will do. Technology will keep getting more and more relevant. Technology will keep getting more and more cheaper. Technology will keep getting more and more accessible, right? I think these three things will happen. So we don't have a choice. Technology will be subsuming us. We can make a choice on how we want to play, as a creator, as a participant, or as a bystander who gets swarmed in by technology at some point in time.
So the next question is from Ms. Anjali Kumari. How will the artificial intelligence overtake the entire classic technical field?
I think that's a subject in itself, and I mean, let me just give a very, very short answer. I think repetitive, and I'm sure this is an answer several of you all in this call can give to the person who's made this question. Several of repetitive, mundane interpretation jobs will be definitely taken over by machine as early as possible. But I think the frontiers of what more can happen, it will be left to human ingenuity to kind of develop on using artificial intelligence.
So the next question is from Mr. Salim Sheikh. His question is: increasing technology will lead to more number of cyber crimes. Is cyber security a good career choice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I put that up in the slide. Anything to do with anything to do with future of tech is about more data, is about movement of data. It's about interpretation of data. It's about therefore it's about security, because we are good. I mean, world is not just filled with good people. World is not filled, always utopian where countries are best friends with each other. World, so whatever happens in a brick and mortar world will surely happen in the cyber world, right? And I think cyber security is perhaps one of the largest opportunities which will play out in the coming decade. It already is, but I think it will get many-fold more important. But I think nuanced roles will also emerge in cybersecurity beyond the conventional roles as we know today. But I think security as a vector will become more complex, but will grow.
Sure. So there is a question from Mr. Srinivas. How to use and protect data sharing using various social media platforms?
Well, so I will pause that question. I know that the Joint Parliamentary Committee today has placed its learnings to the Parliament. I'll wait for the data protection bill to move in a certain way, but I think a lot of countries are grappling with two subjects. One, uh, how to protect data, like you're saying, and I think some of these regulations will come into play, and we will see how issues around protection, issues around surveillance, issues around trans border flow of data for innovation, etc., gets addressed. Another trend that is happening is unabetted sharing of opinion, knowledge, news, fake news, etc., are seen in nearly all the countries, and that's a very, very large problem that we're all facing. I think such instances have shown that technology has, though not a sought after benefit, unabated actions like this can alter even democracies, we've seen. So I think governments and policymakers are thinking hard on how to control that. We will be bystanders and we will watch for how the this area gets managed and optimally regulated. The fine line is over regulation. I think may also curb innovation. So very interesting question, very difficult to answer, but definitely ever more than in past, policymakers are very keenly working in this area in nearly all the countries.
Sure. So there is a question or more of a suggestion from Mr. Rahul Singh. Do you think creating an industry exposure or an industry visit to along with the academics would help in bridging the gaps to some extent?
I think, yeah, I think you cannot solve the problems of tomorrow with the thinkings of yesterday, right? I think uh, that's a famous quote I remember from Albert Einstein. And some of these industry visits, uh, collaboration on research, etc., are very yesterday solutions to me. We have to come up with formidable, scalable, quality interventions at scale. It's no more about organizations sponsoring 5 research projects in IITs, or government sponsoring 27 research projects in some area, right? Issues like this have to be solved at scale, and we have to find more than one way to bridge this gap, right? And we are beginning to see it in some emerging economies where academia takes a very active role in organizations. Israel is a great example, where a huge percentile of their startup population is by academicians. I'm not saying a produce of academic ecosystem, academicians, professors, right? I think such models will emerge, but I think I'm seeing that inertia getting broken. Just industry visit and few collaboration, flag waving of intent is not enough. More needs to be done. A lot of such interactions need to happen with come up with, I wouldn't even say concrete solution, scalable solution, several solutions. Let thousand flowers bloom. A lot of it may work, many of it may not work, but several such initiatives have to be taken.
Sure. So one generic question. So apart from as an industry person, apart from technical skills, what are the soft skills that are in demand in the industry that you want our young generation to catch up quickly and then get into a career path?
Yeah, I think I showed a slide. I think a good question, but my crux of my presentation was just to focus on that message that technologies will change, technical skills will change, but you need to build building block skills, right? And if you haven't retained it from my presentation, I'm assuming I didn't do a good job of sharing it with you. But I shared a slide where I spoke about, transdisciplinary abilities. I spoke about cultural dexterity. I spoke about collaboration. I spoke about communication, problem solving, and all of it. I think those are the building block skills. I'm happy to go back to that and just leave it for you to
Let me just
you
put it
can
on the
stay,
screen.
right? I think these are skills that will hold you in good standing, irrespective of whichever industrial revolution we talk about. Mind you, as we speak of fourth industrial revolution, there's already work on the fifth industrial revolution of how do we manage, sensitivity, mental health, etc., in a world like this, right? So I think things will keep emerging, but working on these soft skills will never let you down and will hold you in good cadence as we get into change.
Sure. So still, I can see at least some lot of people are still putting in questions. Uh, so another generic question that I have been, at least I have noticed some 50 questions of are of the same kind. One is I'm doing my B mechanical or B ECE or civil, or I'm doing my polytechnic or diploma. uh, what kind of job that I'm going to get in the industry. That is a generic question that I have come across in this. As you have already responded to this question in your presentation, Kishore, would you mind if you repeating it? Uh, irrespective of whichever field they come from. What are the things that they should, you have also put it in the slide as well. If you could repeat that response to all of our participants to reassure them that irrespective of whatever the field they come from, if they do a great job of excelling in their own career domain, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
So here's a very clear message that you all should take from this event, right? We are living in a highly disruptive world, and the disruption in a positive way is caused by what technology will enable. Okay. In this world, today we know of 6 or 7 technologies that are there that are redefining this disruption. We don't know several new technologies which will get invented by the day. Okay. You can, so therefore, as you step into this dynamic world, you have to prepare yourself to look at learning some of these new technology skills for sure. You cannot, like in past, say, I did a certain engineering program and I'm set for my career. You have to pick one of those new skill areas and skill yourself. Apart from that, you have to be aware that every 7 8 years you have to reskill yourself in that technical area. That apart, what is formidably known today is there are a bunch of soft skills for fourth industrial revolution which will not change. The adaptive learning, computational thinking, virtual collaboration, digital mindset, digital first mindset, design mindset, these things will not change. So I'll urge you to take a screen capture of this and say these are skills that I want to fundamentally start focusing on because this will last me a lifetime. Take this aside, simplistically put, ability to communicate, ability to collaborate, ability to just have that sense of moving things forward, tenacity, right? I mean, these are just building block skills that you should work on. Now, let me give you a little bit of a background about myself. I started a career as a hotelier. I'm a qualified chef as a joke, right? I mean, I went to a hotel school. What I do today has nothing to do with what I studied. That is a reality which is going to be soon a reality for a lot of people, right? So focus on these building block skills at the bottom of the slide, and start building them consciously. Be a better communicator, be a better collaborator, understand cultural nuances, cross cultural nuances, ability to work with multicultural people, and develop all of these skills. These will stand you good irrespective of the mammoothness of the technology change, which you anyway have to reskill yourself for. I hope I captured the essence of it well.
Brilliant. So you gave a wonderful example for our audience as well. So I think now I request Professor Das to quickly sum up the session, and then if you also have few observations or questions, you can also put it forward, sir. Over to Professor Das.
Thank you, Dr. Vignesh Kishore. It was just brilliant. I, I cannot sum it up because certainly I'm not living with 5 generations in my organization. I live with 2, ourselves and the current students. So we have a different kind of challenge where we are regularly hopping across a big generation gap over the years. Uh, uh, I will have 2 questions, one for the audience and one for myself. The question for the audience is in this tsunami of technological innovation, as you are saying, Industry 4.0 revolution, what is there in this technology for the non technologists, social scientists, economists, general,
Statistician.
humanities, statistician, language skillers?
Yes.
Or is it just limited to the engineering or core science background people only? Uh, I would like your views on this for the audience to get more aware.
No, I think I wore a very technology focused industry view, but I think when opportunities get created, they get well distributed across functions, right? And technology plays in a certain context, right? If I speak of, I'm just taking an example. If I speak of a bionic heart, right? Doctors are required in the room, surgeons are required in the room, caregivers are required in the room. So I'm assuming that core industry functions which are outside of the realm of technology will continue to boom, but will continue to morph itself into something which is a little different. Similarly, I gave a health example. Now let me give you, let's say, an example of a financial institution. I don't think financial institutions will get devoid of people who build actuary models, people who actually sell financial products, people who actually build and operate some of these funding businesses. I think they will remain, right? But their nature of jobs will morph into something that can better understand, better collaborate with technologists, and draw the benefit for their business. So the huge population which is not technologists will continue, will move forward to work with technologists better and improve their understanding of technology, but they won't go away. I mean, I just wanted to say all is not bad news. Just because I come from a technology perspective, it doesn't mean rest of it will get wiped out. I think all of you will have very fulfilling careers in whatever you choose to do. Just recognize that, parallelly the technology is changing, and you need to account for that in how you reshape your career in your vertical.
Thank you, thank you. That is absolutely brilliant. I had one question for myself, which I always, I often think about and don't have an answer for. Is as you rightly pointed out that we are in a golden demographic dividend point. Gives us 30 years opportunity for doing all these experiments. My question is, how should we plan for the time after that? After that, what will come is we will have United States plus plus plus. We'll have a huge overload of old people to take care. So does the euphoria of industrial revolution have plans to provide for that population?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, and my only excitement is we still have a good 30 years, and we still have young gray minds which will grapple with that problem. And as I set into my golden years, hopefully I'm in better hands, thanks to all the people on the call here. Vignesh.
Sorry, I have forgotten to unmute yourself, as it
Yeah.
happens in many of the calls.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kishore, for this amazing presentation and taking out time from your vacation and responding to most of the questions of our audience. We really enjoyed. I'm sure most of our participants also will agree to this statement. It was amazing, and we found it really interesting to explore and thought-provoking experiences. We thank you once again for being with us, and we thank each of the participants who have joined us here. And special thanks to Professor Das for joining us from his busy schedule. So once again,
Thank you.
thanks to each one of you for joining here. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kishore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm available
Thank
for
you, Kishore.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kishore.
very
It
much.
was just brilliant. We'll get in touch again. And I would
Look
like to
forward to
invite you
staying in.
particularly for our entrepreneurship school, where
Look
this
forward.
could be a very interesting. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.